You're watching the free version of Silhouette Essentials. For projects and footage, head to borisfx.com for the premium download.
We'll just play the shot through and take a look. Which frame, and does it need to be oversized? Determining the frame one needs to find one in focus and one that is not motion blurred, and also one without it being really different from the rest of the shot. And what if there is a variable blur in the shot? So if so, choosing a frame that is least blurry would be a good choice. Then the blur could be matched in the shot. If I chose to make the clean plate on a motion blurred or defocused frame, then correcting that back to match the part of the shot that is more in focus for the back wall might be challenging. So when I scrub through here, I'm thinking that the first frame is a good candidate, and we'll do this oversized clean plate in a different session. So here we are in the screen right clean plate session, and I've made my viewer look a little bit different and the windows so we can see the area that we need to paint a little bit better, just to give us a little more room. So I have our source here, and I've added a domain of definition node, and this will allow us to make a larger canvas to paint with. So if I have my first frame here, and I go to the last frame, you can see I need to create all this material here as part of the first frame, because we're at the edge here, and same with some areas on the side. We need to make sure that we have coverage for this part of the paint. So in order to do that, there's a couple steps we need to do. So here in the domain of definition node, I'll just call it the DOD node. Probably have to bring up its parameters here, and we'll just open up the window. And what I like to do is add an equal amount on all four sides. So I think I need to add about 300 to 400 pixels on each side. And how I can guess that is you can see that there are some numbers down here on the bottom of the application. So when I'm scrolling over, you can see that they change. So I'm just sort of guessing how much room I need. If I go to the last frame, I'm just kind of looking if I just gauge this. It looks about 300 pixels, and we've got maybe similar on this side. So go back to my first frame. So I'm just going to add 500 pixels on each side, which means I need to make 1,000 pixels bigger on top and bottom. So I'm just going to change this to be 1,000 pixels bigger. 4840, and then 3160. You can also drag out the green borders, but I prefer just to make it a little more even and not have any mistakes. If I'm just trying to pull them out, then I have to be a little more precise. Then in order to make this our canvas, we have to do one more thing. We have to go up to this icon here. This is the ROI, and you have to click this button. We'll see if the tooltip comes up. So set the ROI to the current DOD. So I click that button, and now you can see our canvas is much bigger. But it's kind of hard to tell because it's just all black. So what we can do here is go up to the preferences. I'll open them up. And we can go to the colors, and I can change my background color. Maybe I'll just choose a gray, click apply. OK, and apply. And now you can see that my background in the viewer is actually gray, but I'm going to change it back to black. And now we can add our paint node, click tab, paint. And now we can start painting. I'll click on C for the clone tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is look for a frame to pull from. Instead of just trying to make it up, I want to use all the original source that I possibly can. So it looks like I see the most maybe on the last frame. So I'll use the last frame as my source. Click caps lock and just line it up. I can click alpha and make my softness 100. I'm just trying to retain as much of the original plate as possible in that first frame and just bring in what I see up here. And I'll probably have to paint that out as well. And instead of just painting freehand like this, you can also use the Alt Option key, and you get a little bit of a line here. You can just, like a little straight line, and you can just paint that way as well. And then, for example, I'll go and see if I can find a frame where I can use to clean out the rig there. See if it's changed a little bit. So maybe a couple frames prior. Just trying to clone as much as possible. You can turn on the align. It's not quite working. It's a little too hard to see. And so on. So you see it has a little bit of work to do on all four sides, and this side area. I'm cleaning out this and the bottom. Constantly looking for original source to pull in. And then you might end up doing some hand painting anyway, kind of making it up, because I don't think I have any extra pixels on this side. And you want to make sure you don't have any edge of frame with your clean plates. So I might just paint out a little bit here, so I have a little extra border in case the tracking sort of moves my plate in a little too much on the left or the right. And mostly the tools I'm going to use would be just the clone tool and the drag tool. And of course, we have to paint out the rig here. We'll just find a frame where we can do that. I can even leave the caps lock on and just sort of scroll through and find a good area. It's a little bit of a trial and error. And one thing I would recommend is to try to just use XY offsets when you're making your clean plate, just pulling through from other source and not taking chunks of other frames and compositing them on top and rotating them. As soon as you start rotating something or scaling it a lot, you're going to lose a lot of the detail in the image as well. So you just really want to do cloning XY as much as possible. Okay, so then I'm going to show you my finished painting here. We'll go to the original. Just going to disable that and enable the final. So this is the final clean plate. You can see I have all the edges I need, and I painted out far enough. So then we have to render it out. And the one thing to remember when you're rendering is that you make sure that you have everything selected correctly. But in the render box, you have to make sure that the data window is set to DOD. And then you also have to make sure that if it's a non-EXR frame, that you have to uncheck crop pad in the render node itself. So then we just render it out and you'll have an oversized clean frame. And the last thing to select is that you just want the current frame. You don't want to render out all the other frames. So we'll just cancel that and we can go back to the rest of our shot because I've already rendered it out